morning, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Ameya, I'm an editor at Penguin, and since Srinath's editor Kamini lives in Chennai, she couldn't be here, so I volunteered to stand in for her. I did help her out when she was working on this book, and I must say that I was totally charmed by it. I mean, who hasn't wanted to randomly travel, right? And more to travel inside India. Of course, Srinath did more than that. And I just found the book so lovely because it was so many different stories from so many different places and so many people. Like for me personally, when I travel, I find people are the most exciting thing about the trip. The people who live there, the people who travel with me. Why have you given up your job in Melbourne and decided to come and end up in some corner of Hampi? You know, all those things. So Srinath had it all. He had the travel stories, the people stories, the Srinath stories about how the travel worked for him, and so on and so forth. It's a lovely book. You absolutely have to read it. I'm not just saying that because I work for Penguin, okay? So Srinath, a little bit about Srinath. Srinath is a journalist who writes for various papers across the board. He lives in Bangalore. And Raghu, who has kindly agreed to be in conversation with Srinath tonight, used to be the editor of Time Out. Also writes for various publications. And also lives in Bangalore. So, gentlemen?
So, personally, I've been to a lot of book launches and a lot of book discussions in Delhi concerning books that were better discussed than read. And so I'm really happy that this book is not like that. This book is an absolute pleasure to read, and we'll do our best to make a discussion interesting, but the thrust of the thing is we'll make it fairly short so that you can actually pick up a copy and get to the pleasure of actually reading it. Are we going to, at what stage do we open this?
Let's do it right now.
Let's do this. Go ahead.
I don't think I've done this before. Do I stand up?
But you must know this.
Okay.
Okay. So, if it's Monday, it must be Madurai. Has this very friendly and lively and lovely cover. But what it is actually a book of enormous scope geographically and in the diversity of places that it's going to, and very deep insight. And apart from that, as I said before, it's a real pleasure to read. Like very few books that I've read in the last couple of years. And that's one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here. So I'll introduce it through two quotes. One from that Srinath has chosen, one from the first page and one from the back cover. The first one is a very elegant piece of self-incrimination because Srinath has quoted someone he really admires and a piece of advice that he will go ahead to entirely violate in this book. This is Paul Theroux, of course, the legendary travel writer. And Paul Theroux says, "In the best travel books, the word alone is implied on every exciting page." Actually, I'm going to go with another quote. This is Jonathan Raban. If traveling with company, he's saying, "You're never going to see anything, you're never going to meet anybody, you're never going to hear anything, nothing is going to happen to you." Nothing is going to happen to you. Those are really damning words, but in the course of reading this book, you'll find that that phrase takes on a completely different significance and a completely different meaning. And Srinath fairly debunks, it's fair to say, the original meaning that Jonathan Raban gave it. What Paul Theroux and Jonathan Raban are getting at, obviously, is that a travel writer needs to be in some kind of splendid isolation in order to access this foreign place that he or she is visiting, and to access also whatever introspective power travel is giving them. And so, you know, some kind of sitting on top of a glacier in Tibet with the view ahead and the view within and all of that. But Srinath actually accesses something completely different in this book, which, as you probably guessed, is about conducted tours and is about traveling with company in every instance. And that is what travel does to the people you are traveling with and traveling among. And that is one, I think that's an absolutely wonderful thing to take a close look at, which is what he's doing. well, let's just say that that there's an entirely clear window that that Srinath looks through, not as much, oh, well, to some extent on the places that he's going to, but with brilliant clarity and insight on the people that he's going with. And so this is as much, perhaps more a book about looking at Indians than it is about looking at India or the other places in the world that he goes. So that's my introduction.